Let me try and share my screen and let me know if we're now back into Lightroom.
Yes, you're in Lightroom.
Awesome. So what I was gonna finish with was showing that Lightroom and other programs play well together, and that there are some wonderfully magical buttons in Lightroom, but that sometimes working with Lightroom and other software, in particular Color Effects Pro from Google, Nick, um, can give me more than I would get quickly and easily out of Lightroom alone. So here's Old Faithful. I shot this about a week ago teaching a Yellowstone in winter photography workshop. And just to show some of the buttons that I had talked about earlier in the evening, um, I usually start down here in the camera calibration tab because this is a raw file. And so what I'm going to do is pick a better film. I'll pick something like landscape. And in a single click, I think you'll see a dramatic change in the color and contrast of this photo. Working my way back up, I'm going to create the appearance of a better lens. And I think here you'll see some of that geometric bowing gets flattened out. Since the question came up about chromatic aberration, oops, let me zoom in rather than zooming out. And let me zoom way in because you can see, I think, here these red and green stripes around the trees.
Yeah.
That's the flaw. That's light passing through the sides of my lens where there ought to be a clean edge. It gets aberrated. And so in Lightroom we have this wonderful, magical switch where I turn this on and my lens just got so much better. I mean, that is just amazing. I think the programmer responsible for it is named Eric Chan, and if I'm right, I think we photographers should buy him the nicest gift basket ever.
That's the magic button.
Unbelievably
Magic.
cool. So here in Lightroom, there's a lot of stuff I could do, and I would. I would make the photo brighter. I would draw out some detail. I might, control my shadows, my whites, my blacks, my vibrance, my clarity, all sorts of buttons. But what I often find is that with landscape photos, a little bit extra on top just pushes it that much further. And often that little extra for me comes from mixing Lightroom with the Nick Google Color Effects Pro software. So let's hope this doesn't break things this time. I'm going to tell Lightroom to send a copy over to Color Effects. And I know you guys have had a number of guests on recently talking all about the suite of software that Nick, Google offer, Silver Effects Pro, and just some wonderful stuff. I just want to show my two favorite little filters within here. I think for me as a landscape photographer, this panel that they call the tonal contrast panel is by far my favorite. And what it lets us do, let me zero these guys out real quick. What it lets us do is it lets us add contrast to certain tonal ranges. And I picked this because I think the gray Steam from Old Faithful is a prime example of a mid-tone. If I crank the contrast up there, let's see what happens.
Wow.
Do we get that like HDR look? What we're doing is we're accentuating the lights and darks within this shade of gray, within this tonal range. Now that looks a little overdone to me, but it can really make that Steam blend in with the sky or stand out from the sky. Because it's a distinct tone, upping its contrast makes it pop against the sky behind it. So I'm just going to use a little what I'd call finishing here to turn this is what I had in Lightroom, into this. Or let me show it side by side, and let me set it Lightroom style. On the left is the before, on the right is the after. Now it's probably not all that apparent. Let me make it a little more pronounced. There we go. And let me add one more filter. The other filter I love in the Nick Color Effects software is Brilliance and Warmth. And what I love about it is this little slider called Perceptual Saturation. I can't tell you exactly what it does. I can say as an analogy It's like the vibrant slider in Lightroom. But what I love about it is I can kick the strength of color up, and I can be pretty sloppy. Let me pull this guy up, I don't know, 20 or 30. For comparison, if I crank up the usual saturation slider, 20 or 30, it starts to look kind of phony pretty fast. But the perceptual saturation seems to be a little gentler and just a little bit more believable. So let me show you the before and after here in Nik. On the left is the before, on the right is the after. Or better, for a real comparison, let me save my work so that we can see what I have using Lightroom and Color Efex Pro versus using just Lightroom alone. Now again, I'm working fast and sloppy, but back here in Lightroom, let me pick these two files. Let me compare them side by side on the screen. The one on the left is the Lightroom and Nik together. On the right, Lightroom only. What do you think?
Huge difference. Yeah.
Huge difference?
Huge.
And this is where I hope, if I can leave you sort of one moral, it's that Lightroom is a phenomenal developer. It's a wonderful digital darkroom. Sometimes it's all I need. But if it isn't, Lightroom plays well with others, with Photoshop, with Nik, with Topaz. I'll use whatever it takes to make a photo that pops, to make a photo that looks, well, hopefully something like this, that really rises up off the screen. There we go. How's that?
Great.
And let me end my screen share if we haven't already. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, y'all.
Very good. Oops. Kara's muted.
Muted, she is. Unmute. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good. I just want to thank you, David, for taking the time. And now, are you done with our segment then tonight?
That's all I got.
Okay.
So, all the
well, it's absolutely amazing. And one of the wonderful things that about the Landscape Photography Show, having had you on several times, from someone just starting and working with Lightroom, I'm so delighted to be able to go to David's 8-hour class in Las Vegas on Saturday. And I'm now going to have an insight to these buttons. And for those of you who are listening who haven't purchased Lightroom yet, and I know I just saw it on the Adobe shop, on the Adobe page, that you can still subscribe to both Lightroom, the Photoshop, $9.99 a month. Is that right? I mean, you guys have seen it. And
that's what I do.
What's that, Margaret?
That's what I do now.
Yeah, right. And so anyway, and then the other thing is that I want to blow this horn for David, because you really can hire him on an individual basis to help you, and he actually takes control of your computer, so you don't really have to know what you're doing. He will do it for you. And once he gets it set up, then you can just go, and those one buttons, I totally get where they are now, so I'm really excited to use them. And David, we will put the links to your workshops coming up, because you have some wonderful workshops. And why don't you just tell us what are the couple that you have that are coming up, and we'll put the links on there also, because that's what this is all about, helping us get better.
Well, thank you so much. Well, let's see. This weekend, I'll get the pleasure of spending a day with you teaching for the Nevada Camera Club down in Las Vegas. I then go, a week later, I go up to the Arctic again for another Northern Lights photography class. Unfortunately, that one's full for this year, but I'd love to go back next year if folks are interested. Let's see. In April, I go to Blackberry Farm, gorgeous resort on the edge of Great Smoky in Tennessee. In June, to the Spruce Point Inn on the coast of Maine, teaching a coastal Maine photography class. I do that. I'm forgetting something this summer, but come fall, I'll go back to Yellowstone for a fall photography workshop. And the big one for me is to Switzerland for a landscapes and Lightroom combo class with my good friend Matt Anderson and the Viewfinder Center for Photography in Zurich.
Wow.
I
Cool.
think that's my whole year.
Okay, well, we'll have links for you there, and now we're gonna go back to Jim Warthman, and Jim is going to share our photographers to watch, and we create a circle with all these photographers, which will be posted, and we also create a circle with everyone who's checked yes or maybe for this show, and you're all included in that. So, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Cara. Let me share my screen. And okay, there it is. So I'm going to start with Richard Valenti. And actually, Kevin had to drop off, Kevin Rowe. But Richard was Kevin's pick. And I think you can see why. I mean, Richard does some just gorgeous work. Great composition, lovely colors, and a monochrome work. So that's Richard Valenti, and hope when Cara posts the circle and the links, by all means, go take a look.
His work's awesome.
It is.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
My pick, and I'm going to probably get the name wrong, was Annick Jacolard, French-Canadian, and she lives now in Switzerland. I love the atmospheric feel of a lot of her work, and great attention to detail. The more I look at her images, the more I see, and it's, you know, she's obviously very, very careful when she composes, and you know, just beautiful, beautiful work. And also, one thing you'll notice is that she includes some interesting quotes or song lyrics or whatever in most of her posts. It's a very entertaining read and great photos. So she doesn't have that many followers. Take a look again and hopefully follow her. Next is Margaret's pick.
This is a guy named Beach Bum Brian. I'm sure that's not his real name. I think I asked one time what it was, and he wouldn't tell me. But this, I got acquainted with him in a contest where I was asked to pick an honorable mention. And this is a photograph I really fought for. It has everything. I love the turtles there on the beach, and he's lives on the north shore of Oahu, which sometimes has just stunning landscapes, and I love the sun there, the sunset, the turtle, of course, just incredible. And obviously this is a time when the ocean is very peaceful, and I just loved it. It just has everything there. And then the other one I selected is one where the ocean was not so peaceful. That's got to be about a 25-foot wave there. That's Kelly Slater, I think you said it was. And that may be at Pipeline. There is the wave it looks like, but just incredible sort of North Shore photographs, and he only has like 5,000 followers, so he's an incredible photographer and just wonderful work. So rush out and circle him. I think he's going to be a huge hit on Google+, and just has wonderful work.
Great. Thanks, Margaret. Okay, Tom, what's your pick?
Hi. I picked Hubert J., who's an amateur photographer based in Warsaw, Poland. And from the looks of his photos, he currently travels quite a lot. This particular shot was taken in Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah, and I really like the soft colors and the mist in the background. It's obviously an early morning shot, so this one appealed to me. The next shot here, it was taken in France, and I love the this piece of rock sticking up through the clouds and with people on top of it. So this shot appealed to me as well.
Yeah, great.
I'm not sure about those people at the very top.
Well, maybe that was photoshopped in. That's
I think they're
photoshopped.
crazy.
That's Chamonix. I haven't been there, but I believe that's where you get off the train.
Ah,
Or it's train or gondola, but that's the Guy de Mid. I'm butchering the French. Apologies.
okay.
I figured it looked pretty safe because it had railings around there, so I thought he probably didn't climb up from the bottom.
Nice. Okay. Thanks, Tom. And now to Kara.
Okay. This is a shot by Mai Hong, and she's from Vietnam, and the misty feel from it, her shots in Vietnam are so close to the culture. You can just feel what she's shooting there, and I loved the way the light came through the mist. So this was a lovely shot that she shared with us.
Okay. Beautiful.
And this is another one. She really does have a talent for getting those light rays when she's focusing on a subject. So there she's got a local girl in the rays coming through. So it really is an interesting kind of theme that she has with her shots, and I would strongly suggest you follow her as she is really shares her culture beautifully.
Super. Thanks, Kara. Okay, now let me try something here, and we'll see if this works. I had a different window open, but I'm going to try to do it. Does that show up?
Jimmy
Yes.
Chin,
Yeah.
we see him.
And that's David's.
All right. I apologize. I know that the theme is landscape photography, but I recently discovered that Jimmy Chin is on Google+, and this is a climber, skier, photographer, videographer whose work I have admired for years. He shoots for National Geographic. He shoots for Outside. This is one of the world's premier climbers. This is Conrad Anker, and Jimmy Chin is just someone who's going places on Earth that most of us will never go, and he's a phenomenally talented visual artist. I like that his little bragging rights on Google Plus says, "I skied off the summit of Mount Everest once," which is true. That is actually true. He was part of the only team to ski from the summit. Definitely, I call him an adventure photographer, but someone whose photos and words I think have a lot to them.
Excellent.
And I think this is another shot from
Another Jimmy Chin's, and I picked this one. I picked this one not only because it's a beautiful photograph, but I think the article that accompanies it over there on the sidebar about the rules for adventure photography and expedition photography are totally worth reading.
That's
awesome
magnificent.
Yeah.
That's magnificent.
Thanks, David.
Well,
Oh,
thank you.
And I was gonna say, and it's ironic that he's only got like 300 Google Plus followers.
Oh, well, he'll have more after we're putting him in the photographers to watch, and we're editing the show together. Okay, so those of you who are still with us, we will have a full edited part 1 and part 2, and we thank David so much for coming back and just really inspiring us with our editing skills. And so stay tuned for episode number 27. Those of you who have been watching the Sony mirrorless camera, we are going to have a representative who this week is in Fashion Week doing a great shoot. But we will have Rob Shelley with us and be explaining some of the wonderful features on that camera. Then that will be February 25th. Episode number 28 will be a discussion with panel members on various equipment that can help you, fun things that might improve your ability to take photos. And then on the 25th of March, we will have Dan Hughes back, and he will be talking about focus stacking demonstration and different examples, including some macro ideas. So we have some good shows coming up in 2014. We thank you. We appreciate you hanging in there with us as we navigate through cow pies and Google Gremlins. And you have a great week, and we'll see you for episode 27 on February 25th. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
David.
It's an honor.
Thanks, David.
Dave.